Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on our inaugural first Salesmedic live stream, where I am answering your sales questions live. So I'm very excited. I'm pumped up. I want to make sure that we're able to answer everything you're thinking about, all the questions you're thinking of, and making that available for you. All right, the goal for today, again, is we want to make sure that we're able to answer your real live questions. So what we have is one of the questions that I had repeatedly in when I was doing my shorts. I'm sure you've seen some of them. Some they're kind of ridiculous, kind of fun. Some of the questions that I received today, for the past couple of weeks, all were asking about how to build value, because I think one of the first ones videos I did was saying that the reason why salespeople aren't able to sell is because of value. So before we explain, how do you build value, because that was one of the questions, we want to also talk about what does value actually mean, right? And so I could say, hey, look, you need to make magic happen, but what does that actually mean? Well, value is the benefits, perceived benefits that the client or the company will receive because of a project or whatever you're doing, right? So let me give you an example, right? This pen has an actual cost of $5, right? Good pen. The perceived value of this changes as per my requirements. If I'm in the gym, this has very low, even negative value to it, because I have to carry it around with me. It's going to poke, it's going to hurt, it's heavy. It's not going to work out well. But if I'm in a sales meeting where the customer's ready to sign, this has a very high perceived value for me. I perceive it being more valuable, right? Because it's solving an urgent problem for me. So at that point, if someone were to sell me a pen at that time, or this pen at that time, I may give them $20, $30, $40, $50, $100 for it, right? So value adjusts as per your client's needs, requirements, and circumstances. Does that make sense? The value of a solution that you're selling a customer changes as per their circumstances, the actual pain of the actual pain of the problem that they're trying to resolve, how acute the pain is at that time, and how you have shown them it's going to solve the problem for them, right? So another piece you'll find with value building is you also need to add urgency to it. If there's no urgency to the pain, there's not going to be any urgency to the solution, which means the product you're selling, which also means that the perceived value of that solution is going to be less because it can wait. Does that make sense? I hope so. So let me explain. I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. Value is the perceived benefits a client receives from your service or a tool. So if you're selling a physical good, what actual perceived benefits the client will have? The reason I say perceived, that's different from actual benefits, right? And the main reason why it's different from actual benefits is that perception is at the heart of actual value itself, right? So only way you can provide value is by making sure the client perceives the value, right? So as I gave the example of the pen. So let's use an example of, let's take an example. You want to get a car. Your requirement is to get a car that gets you from point A to point B, right? You go into the dealership. How did they build that value for you, right? Why are you going to a particular dealership, right? What is your perceptions around that dealership, right? Let's say I'm going to a Hyundai dealership, and then I'm going to a BMW dealership, right? What does that actually mean for, how are they going to build value? What is going to be a differentiator when it comes to that? So when I go to a Hyundai dealership, there's already a customer perception that they're going to get a very value-oriented vehicle, cost-wise. Like it's going to be very budget-conscious, budget-friendly vehicle for it, right? So the salesperson most likely at that point is going to start discussing about, your usage related to, your commute time, your gas cost, your insurance cost, all the extras that come included in that, right? They're not going to spend a lot of time telling you about the feel, the drive, the energy, the prestige, because again, the buyer is not perceiving that when they come in. The prospect's not perceiving that, right? So you want to have, when you are building value, you want to take that into account. What is the perception of the client or the prospect when they're coming to you, right? And take that into account and work within that range. Unless your product's completely different from the market perception or the prospect's perception, work within that and expand it a bit. You don't want to go completely crazy out of the box on that one, kind of like I'm doing right now with my hands. You want to stay within that box. And the main reason you want to do that is because you want to ensure that you are not confusing the customer, confusing the prospect, right? And that's the very important piece of value, is that if you confuse the customer, they're not going to buy. But the value piece makes sure that the customer is not confused, right? So I'm at the Hyundai dealership. The salesperson tell me how great it is, how well it's going to work, how efficient it's going to be, how it's going to save them money in maintenance, and how it's going to be beneficial for them when it comes right down to their mileage and cost of ownership. All those things are going to be important, right? And you can really zone in on that value prop by understanding what the client's needs, wants, and pain point are. Let's say the client doesn't have a vehicle at all right now, right? Their vehicle died and they need something gas efficient because they are commuting 2 hours every single day, and they require and they don't have a lot of money right now. They didn't have money saved up. So guess what? You're going to focus in on those, energy saving pieces, the cost control piece. And that's going to be the perceived value for the customer, right? Once they've sold on that piece, you can add as an added benefit. Hey, by the way, you are getting all of these things. Let me add more value to it, more benefits for you in your day-to-day life for not a lot more money, because you have already agreed to the immediate band-aid solution to solve that problem. You needed a car that's going to be energy efficient, that's going to allow you to commute, be comfortable, and you don't have a lot of money, right? So you have all those things that are already in place. And now that you already have it set in place, what salespeople do is like, great, let's sign you up. Terrible. Good salespeople, and it doesn't matter if you're in retail, B2B, B2C channel, good salespeople do this. They go, okay, so now that we have agreed on this parameter, this is what you need, which means we're going to be looking at this range of cars. So let's say we're going to look at subcompact as an option. That's all we're going to look at. That's going to be all the all the vehicles we're going to look at, just the subcompacts that Hyundai sells. Fantastic. Now you go, okay, so now that you're commuting for about 2 hours every single day, that must get, how does your back feel by the end of it, right? Ask them a question. Hey, how do you feel after the whole drive? By the way, do you, on this long drive, are you regularly listening to radio? How are you consuming media? What are you doing when you're driving? Are you eating? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you listening to radio? Right? Start asking questions. Okay, so when you're in the car, you're driving, what kind of work are you doing? So let's say if they're doing something that's very physically active and it's going to be a dirty job, when you're selling the car, you can say, hey, look, by the way, we have this coating for the car seats and the mats and these high performance mats that, yes, it's going to add and just say, hey, it's going to make cleanup and keeping your car clean and new really easy and very easy to access. right? So if you are going that route, if you go that route, hey, look, you're going to focus in on the value piece of, hey, let's keep this car clean. You now have more options to sell the customer, right? And always make sure the customer said that they don't have a lot of money in play, right? That's one of the things, that's one of the concerns they have. That's okay. If the customer pushes back and says, I don't have a lot of money, he's like, I understand. I am not trying to push something for you. I just think this is valuable for you. And what we can do is that when you're getting a new car with us, we have special pricing or special offer related to that. So that becomes an enhancement or an add-on that you can provide your customers. And that goes on over and over and over and over and over again, right? So you build value initially, just figure out the pain point, right? As our example, pain point was we need a vehicle for a 2-hour commute, right? It needs to be gas efficient and I don't have a lot of money to buy the car, right? So great. So you take that idea, you transition it, and you say, okay, this is the immediate pain that I need to resolve, right? What else can I do to make sure that I am taking care of the customer, solving their problem best to their ability, giving them the maximum perceived value out of this product, right? We immediately jump to subcompact. A great question might be, hey, do you know what? Understandable. How many other people are in the car with you? Well, I have 5, 6, 7 people. Well, do you know what? Subcompact's out. Then you need to look at SUVs, right? Or, hey, do you know what? I have a dog, I have a baby, a wife, and when I'm not commuting on the weekends, we travel a lot. Okay, great. And do you know what? And then you can start asking more questions related to the actual usage outside of the commute, because that was the immediate reason, and you already figured out what makes sense there, right? So it's very important to make sure that we are actively listening to the customer, asking open-ended questions, because then you can take the cost. So a cost of a vehicle, let's say the base model for the vehicle, let's say subcompact, we'll go with that example, subcompact was $17,000. Well, let's go make math easy, $15,000, right? That's a lot of money, right? But this car will fulfill all their immediate needs. They're not going to get the net benefit of the additional value that, all those features that we talked about, all those add-ons like, seat warmers, the special coating, M3 film on the car, tinted windows, all those ones, without including that, that's what it will be, right? And that's okay. But that solves the client's immediate question. If that's all you've done, you're still better than about 50 to 60% of the salespeople out there, by far, because vast number of salespeople will not know the difference between cost and value, and they won't know the difference between benefits and features. Trust me, this is absolutely crazy. Cost versus value, benefits versus features. Benefits versus features. So that's the important piece, right? Is that cost is what actually the solution is going to cost the customer out of pocket. And that could be money, that could be risk, risk exposure. So I'll give you an example. So let's say customer says, hey, look, I love the car. I'm going to pay 15 grand for the base model. Not going to add anything. Just going to keep it really, 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 really simple. I like that one. But I need to go talk to my wife about this, or I'm going to need to talk to my spouse about this. Guess what happens? There is a risk attached to that purchase decision. There is, and that risk can be social. That can be, for your career, economic, all those things. So, which is one of the reasons why you will see a lot of software, a lot of consumer goods will have a 30-day guarantee or 15-day guarantee. Like mattresses have like 90-day sleep or 90 sleeps guarantee. Those kind of things, they'll have those guarantees baked in, because what it's doing is reducing the risk exposure for the customer, perceived risk exposure for the customer. And the interesting thing is that when you look at Costco, when you look at other major retailers, they found that if they added that piece, when they added, money back guarantee, or we'll keep working until you're satisfied, those kind of guarantees in place, that actually increase the perceived value of the product. Costco is a prime example, but does not see a major increase in actual returns themselves. Just the fact that the customers know that they can come back and return an item because it doesn't function that they want to is adequate for them to remove some of that risk factor itself. And again, increase the value, perceived value of the solution you're providing. Hopefully that makes sense for our folks there. So this is a very important piece to remember, is that value is not just solving the problem, but also reducing the risk exposure for when someone makes a decision to go with that solution. So with that, for that individual, you could say, hey, look, you know what? I completely understand. This is what we can do for you. We can process all these documents and we can process the vehicle, and you can take the vehicle today. And by the way, we're going to give you a 100-kilometer, 100-mile guarantee, or 50-mile, 50-kilometer guarantee. You can go take this vehicle, drive it for 100 kilometers, 100 miles, or 50, whatever, test it out. And if at that point you don't like it for any reason, if your wife doesn't agree for it for any reason, bring the keys back, of course, with the vehicle, and we will take it back and give you 100% of your money back, or we will cancel the finance agreement. Whatever it is. Again, what is it? It has reduced, it has eliminated an objection. It has also removed a large risk factor for the customer, right? So again, increase the value of that product. Now compare this to the same guy going to BMW dealership. There's a perception of that brand, perception of the tools and products it provide. Hey, it's going to go fast. It's going to be a smooth drive. It's German engineering. It's gorgeous. You're going to love it. All those things are going to come into play when you're there. And it's also going to come into play of how the salesperson interacts with the customer, right? You might say, hey, are you getting for business or pleasure, right? Because you may actually consider buying a BMW for pleasure. The question may be related to, hey, how much horsepower do you want? Are you on the track? Do you want to zip through traffic, right? Maybe not having the conversation related to, economy of the actual interaction of that product itself. So that's going to be a different kind of interaction. And the client and the customer, if they don't feel heard, if they don't feel like their pain is being solved or accounted for, guess what happens? Is that at that point, the client's going to say, no matter how good of a deal it is, well, you know what, thank you so much. I'm going to have to think about it. Because again, in their mind, there wasn't a perceived value for that product for them to be able to make that commitment. There's too much of a risk factor for them to value that solution for their problem, right? So that's a really important piece, is that if you don't have the value in place and set in place, you're going to have a tough time. So when we're building value, what do we need to do? Oftentimes, we will do role plays, and we will forget that the real customers don't come out up front and just tell you, by the way, this is the problem I'm having. These are my core needs and requirements. What do you do? Well, a couple of things you need to do. First one, and I know it's odd to say that on a live stream where I'm the one speaking, but your goal should always be, when you are interacting with a customer, when you're interacting with a prospect, is to listen very closely, and active listening. I will actively, if I am sitting down with a customer, or if I'm speaking to a prospect, I will actually have a paper and pen handy. Yes, old school paper and pen. I literally have a clipboard here that I use when I'm taking notes. And generally I have a blank piece of, printer paper that I'll have up here. And I will be fiercely, and I'll advise them, hey, by the way, I'll be asking some questions and taking notes down to make sure we address your concerns. So please don't mind if there's a little bit of, if I'm not speaking or if I'm just active listening and trying to write it down. I advise them. I tell them exactly what I'm doing. I don't want them to worry. I don't want them to be concerned. And there's one added benefit to that. You want to have some silence when you're between questions. As the customer responds, you want to have about 5 seconds or so, at least, to let the customer think it through. Add anything else that they're thinking of. So, open-ended questions. So, customer comes in, you build rapport, and we will do. I'll do another live stream where I go into details of how to build rapport really quickly, depending on what situation you're in, and what are the pitfalls and hurdles that can happen when you are when you're actually building rapport. I happen to be an expert at it. I'm very proud of my rapport building skills. But I also want to teach you how you can build, do a really good job at building rapport. But let's say that rapport piece is done. Now they're telling you, hey, you ask them, hey, fantastic, pleasure to meet you, John. My question would be, pleasure to meet you, John. You're a phenomenal, you look like you have a very interesting career, interesting lifestyle, whatever. Really cool. So what brings you in today? It can be easy as that. Hey, what can I help you with you today? Give them an open-ended question. Let them try to answer the question. I'm hoping you've already advised them that you'll be taking notes. Start taking notes. Point form notes. So I know some salespeople that have phenomenal memories and they can remember everything that the client said the whole time they were with them and be able to type it out on their Salesforce afterwards or another CRM tool, or be able to type up an email. That to me is a phenomenal skill set to have. Please leverage it as much as you can, but I think that's trying to live sales on a hard mode. I don't enjoy that piece. I much rather write everything down, write all the notes down as I'm speaking to the customer. And then the great piece is, and I'll tell you afterwards, what's the added benefit of writing it down is. Okay, so you're writing down everything the customer says with your initial conversation. And what I would do is I would literally tag things that you think would be a good conversation starter. So right now, I don't want you to think of in the next question you're going to ask. I want you to actively listen and see where the emphasis the customer is putting. I'll give you an example. Hey, yeah, do you know what? My big issue is, my car died. Ding, ding, ding. My car died after 15 years. And I need a vehicle to start going to work as of Monday. Okay? It needs to be, and it needs to be very good on fuel because I'm commuting for about 2 hours. And you know what? Yeah, that's the major things and it needs to be reliable because I tend to hold my cars on for a long time. Great. So now you've seen what the client judgment, how client is judging the value of the tool you're providing, right? They've given you the broad strokes of what the criteria are. It needs to be fuel efficient. It needs to, have last a long time. I don't think they noted out that it needs to be cost efficient, but it's urgent because they need a vehicle as of Monday, so they can go to work, which, generate revenue for themselves. So there is urgency, which is awesome. There is set criteria what they're looking for, fuel efficiency, and they're also looking for, after the fuel efficiency, they're also looking for reliability, right? So those are 3 things that I would actually, as I'm writing it out, underline them, star them, or just put a line up top, or on top of them, so I know to go back to them and have that discussion. Because what happens is, if urgency is the most important piece to the whole pie, nothing else really matters at that point, right? So you ask them to rank where their value is. It's like, do you know what? I get that. And once they say that, you say, I understand that. Yeah, I'm trying to understand this better. So you need a vehicle. So you don't have a vehicle right now available. It's like, no. Is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Okay. So getting possession immediately is essential for you right now. So, yes, or essential to your decision making. Like, yes, it is. Well, it is, but you know what? I guess I could borrow my wife's car. You know, they're waffling on that. So you want to make sure whatever value you're emphasizing, whatever you're going to target as the main criteria or main criterias to, you know, put your solution up against, confirm them. Make sure you confirm them, because otherwise you can't build value. Confirm what the criteria are, right? So go, yeah, absolutely, it's urgent. Perfect. I would write that down. You said fuel efficiency is really important. Can you tell me why? Well, you know, and John may answer like, well, I'm driving a lot of hours. I'm doing this, you know, I'm driving 2 hours. It comes to about 100 kilometers each way every single day. I need to make sure the vehicle is not, you know, not completely drying up my wallet. Okay, interesting. So now that takes me to 2 points, right? What do I do at this point? Do I say, great, we have these great energy efficient vehicles that can take care of for you? Or I continue investigating further, right? So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that fuel efficiency conversation. Okay, so other than the 200 kilometer commute that you have, on average, what is the travel distance you do both ways from your home to, you know, on a weekly basis? And they're like, well, you know, on the weekends, my wife and I go hiking, and we go about, you know, 3 hours up north. It's about 5, you know, 3-4 you know, up north to, you know, go hiking, you know, every Saturday. And then on Sundays, you know, I take my, you know, progeny, my children to, you know, take my child to their, you know, soccer practice, which is about, you know, 50 kilometers away. Okay, so what that does is, as you're getting the use case and how they use the vehicle, it gives you an idea of where you can start scratching out things. Because what I may think may make sense is, hey, he wants to be energy efficient. Let's look at an electric vehicle, right? Which may have been my go-to if they were just going from home to office, and that was mostly their commute, long commute. Rest of it was just hanging out. But the fact that they are now also traveling up north 3 hours, where they may not have access to electrical outlet to charge their car, right? Which may make electric cars go down a bit. But what I'm thinking of right now is, hey, he didn't bring up costs as too much, so maybe hybrid could make up for it. So, right, again, add value to it. So I'm already, as they're speaking, I'm already cutting out options that I don't think would be valuable. Doesn't mean I'm never going to discuss them, but I'll tell them that this is the reason why I picked it. This is why I didn't pick it. So they never have that question in mind that I didn't look for the best interest. All right. So once you go down that path, once you go down the value piece, right, I'm digging deeper on what the commute is actually like, right, and the fuel efficiency piece to it, right? Then I want to look at reliability. Oh my God, that's amazing. You've had your vehicle for past 15 years. That's unheard. In my industry, that's unheard of. So tell me a little bit about it. Did you like the car? You know, how did you buy it? What happened? Get some details. Because it's good to know if he is buying the vehicle from, let's say, a dealer, and then he's getting serviced by the dealer for an extended period of time. If it's not Hyundai, why, or, you know, let's say whatever car company you work for, if it's not Hyundai or BMW, which they had previously, and they're coming to a brand new dealership, why is that? What happened to that relationship, right? Because one thing you need to remember with dealerships and most of the other places, it's not the actual sell of the vehicle itself where they make a lot of money. It's you coming back to get services done. And what you can also do, and what often people will, salespeople will do, is that they'll sell you chunks of service hours, or, you know, 1 year of service included, or, you know, added to the cost of the vehicle, so the customer doesn't have to worry. So again, that's a really good question to ask. And also that gives you added benefit of understanding what the client perceives as valuable. So where does their value matrix lie, right? So they may feel like, reliability is more important than all the other tools out there. Or what they may say is, hey, look, I'm in their head, they go, do you know what? If I get a really reliable car that lasts me 15 years, mentally I can amortize the cost over 15 years if it makes sense, right? So it's very important to make sure you understand how the client thinks. And that's by asking open-ended questions and not being afraid to dig deeper into it. Let the client speak, follow up, and get more details on when they tell you, hey, this is the pain I'm feeling. Okay, tell me about it. Explain to me how you're going through this pain. How is this pain manifesting in your day-to-day life, right? And it's very important, because if you can actually start doing that, where you can actually start having the customer explain to you their real life use case of, their pain point and the problem, you can start writing down, taking notes again, point form notes, very important. You can use that to dig further and deeper into conversations and try to get a better idea of, what the client would want as a value add. What should I discuss as a value add for the customer, right? Very important. Again, this is, right now I quickly spoke about cars. Doesn't need to be cars. It could be any tool, any service. I've sold, so a little bit about me. I've been selling since I was 12, 13 years old, starting with Pogs, Pokemon cards, onto professionally selling, telecommunications, cell phones, HVAC equipment, furnace, ACs, air conditioners, to customers, to residential homeowners, and also to businesses. Moving to channel sales for software, and selling software for a very large company, and and then doing again for another company, being their national channel manager for them. So the fact is, sales doesn't change. It changes how you pivot, how the decision cycle, the stakeholders may be adjusted, and the stakes are a little bit higher, but the value process, value seeking process is always the same. You're always going through the same kind of open-ended questions, getting into details, getting as much in depth of the current problem they're feeling, right? And you also want to note down if there are some things that are emotional or societal values, emotional values, societal values. You have your monetary values, and then your risk value, right? So you have these four main values that you need to manage and work with, right? And make sure that you can solve that problem for them. And once you start doing that, it's going to be very helpful. It's going to help you close deals faster and better for the customer. And you're literally going to find that your customers are not going to need for you to do the hard close or to even worry about the close. You can, I've oftentimes, for me, my closes are generally very, very soft, and generally my customers are the ones that'll say, that sounds great, man, I'll take it. Hey, do you know what? Or I've even said, do you know what? If this fits all your needs and requirements, I can see if we can, and I know you said this is urgent, so we'll go for a software solution. I know this is urgent. I will, if I can get you, yes, if it makes sense, I will reach out to our consulting team and see if we can have the kickoff set up for, first week of September. But keep this in mind that if I get this agreement for them, we need to make sure we take care of the paperwork immediately and get you set up and ready to go so they can have the kickoff call in September, because there's going to be a lot of work that's involved. All right. So as you can see, I have now said, hey, look, I realize this is urgent. Just give me an idea. I realize this is an urgent requirement. And I can say, hey, look, I don't have the decision making on that one. I'm going to find out for you if we may be able to get that for you. Again, always try to under promise, right? We may be able to help you with this. We may be able to figure this out. Let me check, right? Very important you go that route, is try to under promise. And then the next step that you have with it is that now then you are leveraging the urgency piece. Hey, look, we're going to get this all set up for you. And we may be able to set it up so it fits your timeline, or if it's, ahead of your timeline. But what we will be able to do is, but I need you to make a decision at this point. So if there's no urgency, then it means you haven't done the good job of building the value of your solution. And that's how you do it with a close. You add the urgency piece to it, which takes into account their values and why they need to make a decision sooner rather than later. Because at the end of the day, for every salesperson in the world, doesn't matter what culture, society you're in, what language you speak, you have one big competitor. One big reason people choose not to make a decision. One thing that professional salespeople hate more than anything else, if you haven't guessed, it's status quo. It's not doing anything, right? If you haven't built value and done a good job explaining it so the customer's not confused, the customer is not going to make a decision, right? It's the easiest way. It's easy not to make a decision. It's easy to stick with status quo. And what you want to do is, when you're building value, understand that your competitor is not Joe Schmo down the street or the big Goliath that you're interacting with. It's literally the option to do nothing, right? That is a very important problem that you, as salespeople, we need to understand. That's a real big hurdle when you're explaining the value of your tools, product or service. That's a really important piece, is that if your value doesn't counteract the comfort space of, I think that's the right way to say it, the comfort space of status quo, you're never going to close that deal. And I can tell you this, you can keep dropping your prices down, adding more features on top of features on top of features, you're never going to close that deal because the status quo is comfortable, right? So just remember, value, phenomenal tool. In my view, that is my most leaned on tool to close opportunities in sales. And the other piece that you're going to have, other than your value piece, is understanding how the status quo works, and making sure. And I think on the next stream, I'm going to talk about pain, and what does customer pain look like? What does it sound like? That's not physical pain. It can be, but it's not. That's not what I'm going to be actually discussing. I'm talking about the actual reason why they're looking to change, move away from the status quo, right? And what can you do to facilitate their buying process? And that's going to be the big thing that I'm going to really lean in on, is don't try to sell. Help customer make purchasing decision. Help them with their buying process. And that's going to be the longer one that I want to do. This has already gone longer than I expected. But my goal is going to be that I want to do these live streams 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week on Saturdays. And I want to make sure I give you maximum value as possible when it comes to your sales. And my goal is going to be also that, overall the stream and the quality of the stream gets better. This is my first time live streaming. But I've done a lot of presentations, Zoom stuff, and all that fun stuff because of, 2020. So my goal is that I'm going to try to make it more entertaining, more educational. And if you thought that I was, jumping to different topics, or you want something, more hands-on, please let me know in the comments below. I am looking to improve and adjust the way I do these videos and live streams and shorts. My goal is to make sales training accessible for everyone and help all of you be better salespeople. And yeah, I want to save, and I want to, again, under promise you and let you know exactly what we're going to offer on my live streams and on my shorts, is the fact that my goal is to help you save one sale. That's it. If I can help all of you save one sale and get good skills and understand that sales is not just, not just something that happens to you. Closes aren't something that just, whoop, I close something, whoop-de-doo. Wow, fun. It's not just a game of numbers. There's actual science, logic, psychology, emotions, all that fun stuff that you get to leverage and have it be the reason why you are in sales. So my goal is going to be to help you save one sale, get good at it. We can start with one and add another one and another one and another one. And my goal is eventually we get you to a point where sales becomes second nature to you, and you are able to consistently perform in the top 10 or top 5% of your organization. And if you're just running your own business, hey, I want to make sure that you're able to articulate the value that you bring as a small business owner, right? So let's work on that. I'm happy to help you. Please drop your comments in the chat below. Any suggestions you may have for the video itself, any suggestions you have for the way I presented. What do you need from me? I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer those questions for you too. Take care. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and stay tuned for my shorts and my live chat next week, August, whatever it is, next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to chatting with you then. Ciao. Take care. Bye-bye.